Most popularly known as a storyteller, and especially for the Vinyl Cafe on CBC Radio, Stuart McLean has continued an ancient art in a society that is replete with intense electronic and digital technology. Indeed, we live in a time when the pace of life, change, and information flow is so fast, yet his artistry slows us down to recognize and appreciate the smallest details of daily life with delight. There is no doubt that his scholarly abilities contribute to this, along with his recognizable voice, his passion for his work, and his capacity to stir within us feelings of happiness or sadness, intrigue of the tale, and comfort in the familiar. He transcends generations, with those younger and much older following the Vinyl Cafe on radio, in books, live in shows across Canada, or streamed via the internet or by podcast. Cleverly, as part of the cafe, he also engages the public to write stories, true stories to share. It's a call to action by him to engage and actively participate in his love of writing and telling. His talent to continue storytelling through these mediums, new mediums, and to take us with him on his journeys gives great comfort about the continuation of such an ancient art form. Dr. McLean is known elsewhere and here in Nova Scotia as an enthusiastic and generous supporter of good causes. He clearly appreciates his own ability to help and contribute to the benefit of others less fortunate. That is another talent for which he has been recognized and deserves to be further recognized, and we are delighted to do so here at St. Mary's today. Mr. Chancellor, it is my great pleasure to ask you to confer upon Stuart McLean the degree of Doctor of Civil Law, honoris causa.
By virtue of the powers which the Charter of St. Mary's University bestows upon me as Chancellor, I hereby confer on you, Stuart McLean, the degree of Doctor of Civil Law, honoris causa. Congratulations.
Congratulations, Dr. McLean, and thank you, Michelle. It is now my very great pleasure to invite Dr. Stuart McLean to address Convocation.
Chancellor, distinguished guests, fellow honorary degree recipients, mothers, fathers, aunts, uncles, boyfriends, girlfriends, husbands, wives, brothers, sisters, grandparents, and graduates. I am delighted to be here today on this Day of Days, for this is a Day of Days, and I'm honored to have been asked to address you as you will stand here for a brief moment, for once on top of the academic mountain. It's a moment to be savored, and I hope you will, as all mountain climbers traditionally do when they summit, stop and wave a small flag, take a picture or two, indulge in the sin of pride. You've earned the right. I know what went into getting here, and I'm speaking both to you, the mountain climbers, And to those of you today who have been watching the climb from the sidelines, be that from above or below, probably from both, because this magnificent achievement that we are here to honor today is both a climb away from and closer to. These sweet, sublime mornings, ceremonies like this, ask us to celebrate our achievements, allow us to celebrate them, ask us to mark them and to reflect upon them. And they don't come often, and they are the sweeter for that. I had one myself recently, so I know how sweet they can be. I performed one of my Vinyl Cafe shows at the Place des Arts in Montreal, Quebec. Now, I was born in Montreal, don't live there anymore, but this was a homecoming of sorts for me. And what a homecoming it was. The Place des Arts is the biggest and fanciest theater in town, and it was sold out, standing room only. And my mom and my dad were there, as so many are today here. And they were sitting in the best seats in the house. They were sitting front row center. And then to top it all off, the end of the show, everybody leapt to their feet and I got a standing ovation. Doesn't get much better than that. Well, when the lights came up, someone went up to my mother and they said to her, "You must be very proud." And she said, more surprised, really. And then she said, "We really didn't expect him to amount to much." In her defense, I have to say that that was a perfectly reasonable position for her to have taken. I'm going to tell you just a little about myself. I was pretty much a failure at the game of boyhood on pretty much every level. And I don't mind saying that now that I'm doing okay. Truth is, it's important for me to say it. Let me give you a rundown of my inadequacies. To start with, I was a skinny kind of kid whose ears stuck out. And I was sent to a school where you had to be good at athletics to be a top dog. And in the hand-eye coordination game, I was dealt all the low cards. I loved sports, I loved playing games, but I wasn't good at them. In fact, I was awful at them. I was the last boy picked for any team that was being picked, all that stuff. Now, the other way to be a big dog at my school was to be a brain. Well, guess what? I failed academically, too. I'm not sure of the why of that. I know I'm not a particularly smart guy, but I also know I'm smart enough that I should have been able to get through grade 11 in one try. And I did. Grade 11 was 2 of the favorite years of my life. Either I had some syndrome like ADD, they didn't test for that sort of thing in those days. Either I had attention deficit disorder or something like that. And there's a good chance of that. Or because I'd already failed at athletics, I was afraid to try in academics in case I failed there too. And you know the way that goes. It's always much safer to fail without trying than to put yourself on the line to try your best and then fail. So that meant I had to stay on the porch. I couldn't play with the big dogs. Didn't seem to bother my parents, or if it did, they didn't let on. Anyway, after my 2 years in grade 11, I stumbled into Sir George Williams University where, incidentally, it took me an extra year to get my degree. But while I was fumbling around, I ended up in the Applied Social Science department, which was, well, a weird little department. And I ended up in a course called Group Development, which was not unlike group therapy. And that apparently was what I needed. A little understanding, a little group I could belong to. From there, I got a job at summer camp and found a second group I could belong to. And for the first time in my life, something that I was good at. A place where I could contribute to the greater good, which is a terribly important thing for the growth and development of a young person. Kept working at the camp even after graduation, and my confidence grew, and eventually I had the confidence to try something that I'd always wanted to try. I'd been too shy and too scared at university to volunteer for the school paper or the radio station. But now I wasn't so scared anymore, and I managed to get myself a job at the CBC in Montreal. I wasn't very good at first, but I loved it. And for the first time in my life, I threw my heart and soul into something. And that's the lesson that I want to leave with you today. School's out. And I know these are hard times, but times are always hard in one way or another. So don't pay attention to that. Pay attention to your heart, which is deep inside of you, so you'll have to pay deep attention. Find your heart's desire, which of course might be easier said than done. But if you are lucky like I have been, and I have been a very lucky man, if you are lucky and you trust your heart and follow your heart or your instincts or your tummy or whatever you want to call it, you will be happy where you end up, even if you have no idea how or why you get there. If you try your best at something that you love, chances are you'll get good at it. And if you're lucky, maybe even great at it. The odds of that happening are always better if it is your heart that's leading you on. It's a direct line from that summer camp that I loved and where I worked while I was at university to the radio show that I love and where I work today. And that direct line is the line of the heart. Don't follow the money. Follow the heart. By following my heart to camp, which was not a good economic decision, I ended up here exactly where I want to be. The money will look after itself. And I hasten to add, the line will only be clear looking backwards. I had no idea where I was going anywhere along the journey. No one ever has any idea. You don't have to know the final stop, just the next one. One more thing. I'm just going to tell you two things today. The first is follow your heart, and the second is this. Once you get on a path, make common cause with exceptional people. Work with people who expect a lot of themselves. Work with the best in the business. Peer pressure is a remarkable thing. Make it work for you. Surround yourself with people who expect a lot of themselves, and you will expect a lot of yourself too. If you want to be successful, and successful is a nice way to be, find successful people and hitch a ride. I work hard now, and I have become good at what I do because of the hard-working people I have worked with and learned from. Okay, one last thing. A word for the parents here today. Parents who might be thinking, like mine once did, well, that's all well and good, but my kid isn't going to amount to much. Of all the parenting virtues, great patience might be the most overlooked these days. Great patience and great love go a long way, and we could all practice them a little more. They certainly worked for me. My deep thanks for this wonderful honor I will treasure this morning. I am delighted to be here, and most delighted to be part of the class of 2012. Thank you.